We're going to do a quick quiz time now on what we've learned so far with enzymes. Enzymes work by lowering activation energy, standards, temperature, or pH. And so, as always with quiz time, I want you to pause your computer, think about the answer, and then continue when you think you know the answer. So the answer here is activation energy. So, oops. Okay, so here's a chart. This is time. And here's the amount of energy that you need. And so let's say the reactants have more energy than the products. These would be the reactants here, and the products would be over here. And so the reactants have more energy and they lose energy when they become products. But there's this activation energy here, and that's the amount of energy that you need to start the reaction. And so what an enzyme will do, it won't get rid of activation energy, but it'll decrease it quite a bit. And so the reactants still have the same amount of energy that they did before, and the products still, pretend that those dot lines are together, the products still have the same amount of energy, but that activation energy is now quite a bit less, so it's easier to get the reaction going. When an enzyme catalyzes a reaction, that means when an enzyme helps to make a reaction go, the reactant is also called a product, a substrate, an enzyme, or a cofactor. And the answer here is a substrate. And so I haven't even talked about cofactors yet, so if you haven't even heard of something, chances are that's probably not the answer. We will talk about that in a little bit, though. This thing right here is also called stoppage, reaction rate, activation energy, or primary hillock. That is called the activation energy. After catalyzing a reaction, the enzyme can go ahead and catalyze another reaction, is broken down, and its atoms are recycled. It requires a long refractory period in which to rest before catalyzing another reaction. So the answer is that it can go on and on and on. It can go ahead and catalyze another reaction. This area right here on an enzyme is called a substrate mirror, a locksmith nook, active site, or enzymatic spot. It's called an active site, and that's the place that's active when the substrate goes into it. Last question. Identify reactants, products, substrates, and enzyme. Okay, so this thing right here is what you start with, and look how it gets broken down. So this is what you start with, it's the reactant. And because it's going to join with an enzyme, it's also called the substrate. If there were no enzyme, you wouldn't be able to call it a substrate. This thing is the thing that makes the substrate break down, so that's the enzyme. And these things that you produce at the end, those are called the products. So let's see. And that is the end of quiz time for right now.